Welcome to the Milsurp Mike channel. Do you live in town and wish you had more time to go out and shoot your Milsurps? Even though I bought my own land last year, it is still 20 miles away and I don't make it there nearly enough to satisfy my shooting itch. Plus ammo, especially for Milsurps, is expensive and hard to find. My conversation with Miles Vining last year about the Hakim and Rashid rifles made me aware of the Hakim air trainers, and ever since then I've wanted to obtain one if it showed up for the right price. Lucky for me, Milsurp World Danny was able to get into the most recent Missouri Valley Arms Collectors Association show on dealer setup day and spotted two on a table for a very good price. I asked him to pick one up for me, and he bought the other for himself. Now not only can I go out and shoot this in my yard, I can buy the quote ammo for it cheaply off Amazon. Since this will be likely the only airgun trainer I will own, I just looked at prices on the Czechoslovakian VZ35, and they're going anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. Let's go over a little background history on air rifles used for military. In general, the oldest existing airgun known was made in 1580. In the 16 through 1800s, air rifles would be built that could fire 50 caliber plus or minus balls at 650 to 1,000 feet per second, and they'd be used to hunt large game. For comparison's sake, a Brown Bess fired a 69 caliber ball at an average of 1,500 feet per second. But it was flintlock and single shot and produced a lot of smoke, while an airgun could repeat with as many as 20 rounds per minute, with no smoke produced and a much smaller report. The most famous of these Marshall air rifles would be the Windwaffe, or more commonly known as the Giordani air rifle for the Austrian army. These would use changeable air reservoirs and a club-shaped butt on the rifle. The reservoir could be changed out, and it was expected that each soldier who carried one would carry 3 reservoirs and 80 balls. It had a tube magazine which held 20 51 caliber lead balls, and the rifle could fire around 40 rounds before losing muzzle velocity. It would take about 1,500 pumps from a hand pump to recharge each reservoir to 800 psi, but wheel pumps that could quickly recharge multiple reservoirs behind the line were developed. Alas, the upkeep of these would be too much for major fielding of this first repeating rifle, eventually only given to highly trained sharpshooters. The most famous use of a Giordani rifle would be in the United States, as Meriwether Lewis obtained one prior to the Lewis and Clark expedition of the new Louisiana Purchase. His rifle held 22 46 caliber balls in a tube magazine and could hit with about the same force as a .38 special round today. This would be used to demonstrate to Native American tribes who might have thoughts of attacking and stealing provisions of the expedition. 22 rounds fired per minute, with no smoke and little report, would not be something they'd be willing to attack, especially if Lewis led them to believe the whole expedition was armed with these, although this was likely the only rifle of this type on the continent. Later in the 19th century, it was reported that Confederate forces used air rifles at Culp's Hill near Gettysburg. Mainly, though, air rifle usage in the military would be for training purposes. Prior to World War I, King George became enamored so much with the accuracy of the new BSA air rifles that he pushed for them to replace the single-shot 22 rimfires that were in use. Czechoslovakia would later have the VZ35 trainer, and Germany would have Hitler Youth train on Schmeisser 33s. After the war, Haenel 310 and Anschutz 275 rifles would be used for trainers as the Stasi. Crossman 160 air rifles would be used in the United States Air Force. And of course, we have today's rifle, the Hakim Trainer, made by Anschutz. I've already made a 15-minute long video about the Hakim rifle itself, so please check that out if you want more detail on it. But the too long didn't read version is, Egypt desired a domestically produced self-loading rifle and licensed the know-how and equipment to make an 8mm rifle based off the Jungmann from Sweden, as they looked to be non-aligned with either NATO or the Warsaw Pact. They wanted 8mm as they had huge stockpiles of it sitting around left by Germany in the Second World War. This would become the Hakim rifle, likely named after Nasser frenemy Field Marshal Abdul Hakim Emir. Since regional rival Israel would receive arms from the United States, Egypt would sign a deal with Czechoslovakia in 1955, and it would be Czech and Soviet arms from this deal that would be used in their conflicts with Israel until their Mahdi factory started pumping out AK-47s in the late 60s and early 70s. While the official rifle, only 70,000 Hakims would be made, and they were mostly sent to Yemen and Somalia. Going back to early adoption, Egypt would look to Beretta to produce a 22 rimfire trainer, and Anschutz to turn one of their underlevel pellet rifles into a trainer for the Hakim. This would become the 5.5mm 1954. Alright, let's take a little closer look at the Hakim trainer. I got it next here to the real deal Hakim that I did a video on a while back. So it actually only weighs about 8 ounces less than the original Hakim. The original Hakim, I believe, is 10 pounds 15 ounces. This thing is 10 pounds 7 ounces, which is a big boy for this an air rifle. Back, of course, this is made by Anschutz. Back there is Arabic writing. It basically just identifies the model and the year. I believe it's 5.5 millimeter model 1954 air gun. Miles Vining on the TFB TV video, he can read Arabic, so he has a lot better than that. Up here you have your sight, which is in 0, 10, 20, and 30 meter increments. You have this skull right here, which that was the marking, that and that kind of calligraphy writing next to it is actually the Egyptian National Guard, and later called the Republican Guard. They were not actually military loyal to the country. They're loyal to whoever's in charge. So instead of being loyal to Egypt, they'd be loyal to Nasser or Sadat or whoever's in charge. And then, of course, we go up front. We have our hooded front sight right there. You see me in my shooting video, when you cock it with the lever, that automatically brings this up. You put your pellet in, put that down, and you fire. So anyway, there's a closer look to that. Let's get back to the video. Only 2,800 of these rifles were made, and apparently they were heavily used to train for basic marksmanship. When these started coming to the United States in the 1990s, they could be bought from Navy Arms for $65 each if you bought 4 at once. It's been said in more than one place that many of these would be loaded with sand, and many times you needed multiple rifles to piece together one good working example. Now when you look online, they run from around $550 to $800, but I was able to get mine below the low end of that range thanks to Danny's keen eye. Maybe I should use this more often to become better at shooting. I can go out to my backyard, the pellets which you can order off Amazon are cheap, and I can save my acquired Milsurps ammo. Maybe I should train with this a couple months and see if I'm any better with the real Hakim, which if you want to learn more about, click over here. Have I missed something? What do you want to learn about next? Let me know in the comments below. Please join the GOA and get a discount with the link in the description. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.